Shohei Ohtani isn't just the best baseball player on earth, he is the protagonist of a $700 million lie. When the ink dried on his historic contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the global headlines screamed about a record-breaking payday that shattered every precedent in professional sports. But if you look at his actual bank transfers, the reality is shockingly different. For the next decade, the face of baseball is technically earning just $2 million a year, less than some utility infielders make to sit on the bench. The $700 million figure is a financial mirage, a calculated manipulation of luxury tax rules and inflation designed to break the system. We are going to break down the math behind the massive deferrals, the controversial tax loophole he is exploiting to save nearly $100 million, and the silent equity empire that makes his baseball salary completely irrelevant. To understand why Ohtani's contract is a masterpiece of financial engineering, you have to look past the headline number and look at the payment schedule. The deal is structured so that Ohtani receives $2 million annually from 2024 through 2033. That is the minimum wage phase of the agreement. The remaining $680 million, 97% of the total contract value, is deferred. It will be paid out in installments of $68 million per year, starting in 2034 and ending in 2043. Most people see $700 million and assume that is what the contract is worth. But in the world of high finance, a dollar today is worth significantly more than a dollar 10 years from now. This is the concept of the time value of money, and it is the mechanism that turns this $700 million deal into something else entirely. Major League Baseball and the Players Union use a specific discount rate to calculate the present value of deferred money. In this case, applying a 4.5% discount rate reveals the true value of the deal. When you discount those future payments back to today's dollars, the contract's actual present value is approximately $460 million, not $700 million. This $240 million gap is the mirage. It disappears into the ether of inflation and lost investment opportunity. However, this vanishing act is exactly what the Dodgers paid for. By suppressing the present value of the deal, the Dodgers lowered the contract's hit against the competitive balance tax, CBT. Instead of being charged $70 million a year against the luxury tax, the Dodgers are only charged about $46 million. That single accounting trick frees up $24 million in annual cap space, allowing them to sign other superstars like Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Tyler Glasnow. We have seen deferrals in baseball before, but never at this scale or with this specific structure. The most famous example is Bobby Bonilla, who the New York Mets are still paying $1.119 million annually until 2035 because they deferred $5.9 million of his salary at an 8% interest rate. There is also Bruce Sutter, who signed with the Braves in the 1980s. He deferred half of his contract with massive interest payments, eventually turning a $9.6 million deal into a $44 million payout. But here is the critical difference that separates Ohtani from Bonilla and Sutter. Ohtani agreed to zero interest on his deferrals. This is the part that baffles financial analysts. By deferring $680 million for a decade without taking a single penny in interest, Ohtani is voluntarily forfeiting an estimated $49 million to $91 million in potential investment gains, depending on how conservatively you model the market. He is essentially giving the Dodgers a massive interest-free loan for 10 years just to help the team win. It seems like a terrible financial decision on the surface. Why would anyone give up nearly $100 million in easy gains? The answer lies in the fact that while he gave up interest income, he set himself up for a much bigger financial win involving the taxman. While Ohtani's contract looks generous to the Dodgers, it contains a California exit strategy that turns the tax code into his personal piggy bank. This specific maneuver has drawn the ire of state controllers and politicians because it highlights a massive structural flaw in how states collect revenue from high earners. To understand the heist, you have to look at California's tax environment. The state has the highest income tax rates in the country, with a top marginal rate of 13.3%, plus an additional 1.1% payroll tax for mental health services. For a typical athlete earning $70 million a year in Los Angeles, the state would take a massive cut of that paycheck immediately. However, Ohtani isn't taking the money while he lives in Los Angeles. He is taking it starting in 2034, likely after he has retired from baseball. This timing triggers a federal loophole found in the Internal Revenue Code, specifically Section 409A. This federal law prohibits states from taxing the retirement income of non-residents if that income is paid out in substantially equal periodic payments over a period of 10 years or more. Ohtani's payout structure, $68 million a year for exactly 10 years, was not chosen by accident. It was engineered specifically to meet the requirements of Section 409A. Here is the play. Ohtani plays in California for 10 years, paying state tax only on his $2 million annual salary. Then, before the massive $680 million payments begin in 2034, he moves his primary residence to a jurisdiction with no state income tax, such as Florida, Texas, Nevada, or even back to Japan. Because of the federal protection in Section 409A, California cannot touch a single cent of that deferred $680 million once he leaves the state. By escaping the 14.4% combined state tax burden on the bulk of his contract, Ohtani effectively saves himself between $90 million and $98 million. The scale of this tax avoidance is so large that it triggered immediate political fallout. California Controller Malia Cohen issued a statement calling for Congress to cap deferred payments, and state lawmakers pushed for changes like Senate Joint Resolution 14 to close the loophole. They argued that the current system creates a massive revenue hole for the state, allowing the wealthy to utilize California's market to build their fortune while refusing to pay for the infrastructure that supports it. But federal law supersedes state attempts to close this loophole, and as of now, the strategy is completely legal. This creates a fascinating ethical and optical dilemma. On one hand, it looks like a billionaire exploiting a technicality to avoid paying his fair share to the state that made him rich. On the other hand, it is a brilliant execution of tax arbitrage that legally maximizes player profit. He gave up interest to the Dodgers, but he clawed it back from the state of California. This tax maneuver is clever, and it secures his fortune against government erosion, but it is ultimately just a defensive move. It protects the money he has already signed for. The true offensive strategy, the one that turns him into a billionaire, is his off-field business machine. This tax maneuver is clever, but it's just defensive. The offensive strategy is his off-field business machine. While everyone obsesses over the Dodgers contract, they are missing the real empire. In 2025 alone, Shohei Ohtani earned an estimated $100 million in endorsement revenue. That creates a bizarre reality where his side hustle pays him 50 times more than his actual job. To put that dominance in perspective, he earns 10 times more off the field than the next highest paid MLB player. He has left the realm of baseball economics entirely and entered the stratosphere of Tiger Woods and LeBron James. But it's not just about the amount of money, it's about the structure. Most athletes sign standard sponsorship agreements. They get a flat fee to hold a product and smile for a billboard. Ohtani doesn't do that. He operates closer to a venture capitalist demanding silent equity in the brands he partners with. Take his move to New Balance. When he left the Angels, every major shoe brand wanted him. He bypassed the easy cash to build something sustainable. He launched the We Got Now campaign and debuted his own custom logo in 2024. This isn't a sponsorship, it's a joint venture. Instead of just a fixed salary, the deal structure prioritizes royalties on signature cleats and apparel. Every time a fan buys his gear, Ohtani gets a cut. He effectively bet on himself, aligning his income with the brand's growth in the baseball sector. If New Balance takes market share from Nike, Ohtani profits directly. This is the difference between being paid to wear a shoe and being paid to sell it. It's a model that shifts the risk but uncaps the reward. Then you have his leverage as a Japanese national hero. His partnerships with Seiko and Ito-En go far beyond traditional commercials. These deals involve co-developed products like limited edition watches and specific tea blends designed for the Asian market. In these arrangements, Ohtani participates in the profits generated by these specific product lines. He isn't just a billboard, he is a stakeholder in the product's success. This extends into the digital realm, with partners like Fanatics and even Fortnite. He secures licensing cuts from merchandise sales and in-game skins, creating passive income streams that persist regardless of his on-field performance. If he goes 0 for 4 at the plate, his digital avatar is still selling skins and his jersey is still moving units. The executive lesson here is critical. Ohtani realized he isn't an employee, he is a platform. Traditional athletes take the cash up front because they fear their career could end tomorrow. Ohtani took the equity upside and back-end security. By owning the upside, he ensures his income scales with his fame. not just his batting average. Most players are renting their image to brands for a fee. Ohtani is selling shares in his influence. His playbook is ruthless and brilliant. Defer the salary to lower tax liability, use global fame to secure revenue sharing, and diversify across both US and Asian markets. This is the silent equity that turns millionaires into billionaires. So here is the billion-dollar blueprint. The $700 million contract is essentially an interest-free loan to the Dodgers, used to buy a winning team. The real wealth is generated through tax arbitrage and global royalties. Ohtani didn't just sign a baseball contract, he executed a private equity transaction on his own brand. If you want to see which athlete cracks the billionaire code next, subscribe to Revenue Racers